San Francisco, 1921. Familiar elements, but a different world. Unwelcome at the San Francisco Bar Association, and lacking representation in the courtroom and on the bench, led a small group of San Francisco women lawyers to decide, if the association did not want them, the solution was simple, to start their own bar association. And so they came together in 1920 to meet and to plan. In 1921, Queen's Bench was born.
Queen's Bench was founded in 1921, and it is not coincidental. I think that was a year after the 19th Amendment was ratified, and the, 10, 15, however many charter members organized Queen's Bench because they were not welcome in the San Francisco Bar Association. And they had to be motivated and inspired by the suffragette movement and colleagues. So I just have such huge respect for what they took on and what they tried to do. Well, it's still happening. There are so many segments of our population now that don't have access to justice.
Queen's Bench thrived because it became a place where its members felt accepted, supported, and understood. It also was a place where women lawyers could support each other in their careers and ambitions. It felt like home. And this has continued to be true over the life of Queen's Bench.
Did your membership in Queen's Bench prove important to you professionally?
I think being a member of Queen's Bench was very important. You know, it was and is to this day, being a part of a coalition of other women makes a real difference. But there's no doubt that Queen's Bench set the model for what a women's lawyer organization should be.
Could you describe how Queen's Bench affected your career or your life?
Well, it put me in touch with women who were actually practicing law. They didn't have to be practicing to join. They just had to be licensed and working in the field. But I just felt it was helpful to me to be around women who had been through what I was going through.
And you supported each other?
Oh, I don't know one that didn't support each other.
Queen's Bench became a part of my life from the very beginning when I graduated law school. Queen's Bench was very warm and friendly and helpful and supportive, and let you do whatever you wanted to do in the organization. If you wanted to participate, they supported that. And I made many friends at Queen's Bench, many friends which I still have today. So it was one of the most important things that happened to me, is to find Queen's Bench.
Queen's Bench thrived as its members thrived, helping its members grow professionally and personally.
How do you think Queen's Bench impacted its members at the time when you were most active?
I wouldn't have been anywhere near where I was, and I'm sure other people in my generation will tell you the same thing. It was because of the people I knew in Queen's Bench that I got to be where I was.
Judge Marie Victoire, do you know who that is? Ali Marie Victoire. I have a lot of pictures of her. She, at that point in time, and she was the reason I became a member of Queen's Bench, she, at that time, wanted to be a judge. Now, she went to law school at Hastings, and she went several years before me. Now, when she went on the bench, and that's what happened at this point in time, she goes on the bench and then she gives me her practice. So now I have not only a practice, but so much work I don't know what to do, and I don't know how to do it. So it was really quite something. The challenge was enormous.
And then we had things that were social, where you could be on a committee, or maybe there'd be a luncheon, or a dinner, or something, a reception, and you could have fun and make friends, and those friends would be your support group. Like the first time I went to court to do some motion, I don't even remember what it was. I had never gone to court as a lawyer before. So I called up Adrian Miller, who had become my good friend, and I said, Adrian, I have to go to court. I was terrified. I was sure that if I walked into that courtroom, a big hole would open up and I would fall into it and be buried forever. So I said, well, what do you do? So it's, I mean, like really basic stuff. Well, you walk in and you bring your card and you give it to the clerk. And you tell the clerk what you're here for, and she'll tell you what your line is, and then where you are on the calendar. Then you sit and wait until they call you. And then when they call you, you stand up and you go to counsel table. And I mean, it was that basic. It wasn't that you didn't know the law. I knew the law of what I was going to do. I didn't know, like, how to buy a ticket for the bus.
The relationships built in Queen's Bench have not just supported individual ambitions and careers, but also projects and causes that have made a difference in the legal community, the city, the state, and the country. I know when you were active in Queen's Bench that you worked with my mother, Mildred Levin, on a number of projects.
Oh, yeah. But it was the same, we were doing the same battle in all those associations, you know. We were trying to get equal status for women lawyers. So whatever it took, we did it. It looks like we made it almost.
Queen's Bench Foundation was co-founded in 1974 by Jettie Selvig and Mildred Levin. The first major piece of work the foundation produced was the rape victimization study you see here, which took the radical approach of examining the facts behind centuries-old assumptions about rape cases, and rather than blame the victim, prepare her to protect herself. This study was an important source for the amicus brief argued by Mildred Levin before the California Supreme Court in 1975 in People v. Rincon-Pineda. In a historic decision, the Supreme Court rejected a traditional jury instruction that rape charges were easily made and hard to defend against. Instead, they adopted Queen's Bench's argument that rape is a difficult charge to bring and women should not be assumed to be liars. This is one example of historic changes in the law that Queen's Bench has helped bring about over its 100 years.
I did a couple of things that I think are still operational. I set up a civic appointments committee because I thought we should have more women in politics in the city. We should spread our talents a bit, perhaps. And that year, we got a couple of people on the rent board. That's what we were trying to do, is get more visibility politically, maybe. The thing I'm proudest of that I did during with Queen's Bench was when I was a commissioner at Juvie. And I started the juvenile court visiting program with Queen's Bench to provide some positive role models to the girls that were incarcerated out there. I started that when I was at Juvie. It's still going. I'm very proud of that program. And the Queen's Bench should be proud of the way they've handled it as well. The way it came about was there were not as many women, of course, incarcerated out there as there were boys, girls. And all of the benefits that came from different organizations always went to the boys, always. And nothing, the girls never got anything from, like new typewriters, new computer, anything. And so I decided, I thought the girls should have some good thing to look forward to. So I went to Queen's Bench, and I don't remember who was president then, and I said, I've got a project that I want to start, and I want Queen's Bench to help me. So I came up with a proposal, presented it to them. They took it and ran with it.
After private practice, I was able to work for the San Francisco Superior Court. And once again, I have to say that it was because of my connection to Queen's Bench and my association with Queen's Bench members that I was able to, one, find out about the position with the Superior Court and was supported in getting that position. So when I started working for the San Francisco Superior Court in the Juvenile Division, my presiding judge was Judge Ina Gyemant. And she had a great idea, and that was to start a drug court for juvenile court. They had started one in adult court, and but nothing for juveniles. And so I had a court where I did misdemeanors. I did DUIs for people under the age of 18, and I also had drug possession charges. And sometimes they would mostly be misdemeanors, but with Judge Gyemant and the Juvenile Probation Department and other colleagues, we started the drug court for San Francisco Juvenile Court. And a highlight for me was when we made a trip to Kansas City, and we learned about the other juvenile courts across the nation and how successful they were and how they were really helping youthful offenders turn their lives around. And so with that experience, and I thank Judge Gyemant for that, for including me in that, I started my own drug education program for my court.
So two things. One is that when I was president of Queen's Bench in 1979, that was just after Agnes O'Brien Smith, who was then the presiding judge of the municipal court, passed away. And as I say, I was not on the bench then, but I was very close to her, and she was really wonderful to me in terms of advice, and she was just terrific. So the event that I was sort of the centerpiece of my presidency was that established a scholarship in her name at the USF, which was her alma mater.
The year that I was president was 1996, and we were very active. Queen's Bench was a force that year. I come from the perspective that you create power by asserting power, and you have more power than you think you have, and dare to try. So pretty much every important issue of the day, Queen's Bench got involved with. One of the issues that we took on that year was a bill that had been languishing in the state legislature to make it okay for women, to give women the right to breastfeed in public. Breastfeeding in public before then was not necessarily protected. And this bill had come up and lost in committee every year for years because the Republicans on the committee would say, oh, if you pass this law, it will lead to nudity in public and women will be flinging their breasts all over. And I was like, do these guys know anything about anything? And Queen's Bench had no problem with the craziness of that opposition. Well, what can we do? Well, let's try a different approach. I mean, sure, you can write letters, but let's crack the nut. So that year, we thought, okay, let's tell them. It always dies in committee. So instead of just writing a letter to, like, our guy, some senator that we like, I said, let's identify every single member on the Assembly Committee and on the Senate Committee that's considering this bill. Every single one. Let's craft a letter and let's build our power from our letter. Use that letterhead with all those presidents, past presidents on it. And we'll say, you know, we are the voice of the women's bar in the Bay Area, and we are watching what you do on this bill, and we will hold you accountable for your vote. A, B, whatever it is, needs to get out of committee. Are you with us, or are you going to say no to all the women and mothers in the state of California? And then the law becomes law, Civil Code 43.3.
So what should Queen's Bench be thinking about for its next 100 years?
Well, I think Queen's Bench should keep doing what they're doing. I think that working with younger lawyers, trying to mentor them and helping them to steer the shoals, if you will, is very important. I think it'd be interesting if there's some way to get more involved with the schools or with some of the girls that don't really see opportunities. I mean, particularly with like some of the kids in public housing. I think they don't see that they have opportunities that they might otherwise have. And so I think that might be true not only for Queen's Bench, but for all organizations that like to do good work.
What do you think still needs to be done in that regard? What do you think would be the most important initiative Queen's Bench could take on today to improve the life of women attorneys?
I'd have to think about that. I think we still have a lot of work to do on the glass ceiling. We are at a point where we are seeing over 50% women graduating from law schools now, which is wonderful. And we have a strong pipeline now, but we're still not seeing as much progress that I would like to see in terms of breaking the glass ceiling. I mean, we've put lots of little cracks in it, but it's still there. We still have, you know, it's still less than 20% women equity partners. We're still less than, 15% women in management, women managing partners. And I'd like to see, more women trial lawyers. Where are the women trial lawyers? Where are they? They're not in my courtroom. I mean, I've tried a lot, presided over a lot of cases in the 5 years that I've been on the civil bench. And I can count probably on less than 2 hands the number of times that I've seen women first chair a civil trial.
I would just say to the Queen's Bench leadership today, it's important to maintain our relationships, not only with each other, but with the courts and with our governmental agencies that we work with, and to encourage the young women who are coming into the law to continue the mentorships and the guidance. I know law is changing, it's evolving, but however it is evolving, to help the younger generation be launched into the new legal profession that we have today. And I encourage them to join Queen's Bench, because I sometimes feel like they feel lost, that they're out there on their own. And it's hard. Work takes up a lot of your time. Your social life takes up a lot of your time. But it's important to have a bar association that supports you in both your legal career and your social life.
I think it's really, this has been the foundation of Queen's Bench. It's really important to have functions that are just fun, where women can just relax and be with other women or men who come and make friends, make professional friends, and have camaraderie and relax.
There's nothing you can't do if you set your mind to it. Work together. Don't keep your eyes on the prize, I guess. Try to let the small things go and focus on the big things. Focus on the real threats to equality and justice.
One of the great honors of my career was serving as president of Queen's Bench in 1989. I have formed bonds and friendships with so many of you all at Queen's Bench that I am eternally grateful for making my life better, for making my career better. And I congratulate Queen's Bench for all the wonderful work that you have done in the last century. And I am so proud to have been a microscopic part of that. And I am so thrilled to congratulate Queen's Bench, the great Queen's Bench Bar Association, for being the oldest, longest bar association of women in the United States. And I'm very, very proud that we will continue to do great work for the improvement and betterment of women attorneys in the Bay Area and, in fact, throughout the nation. Congratulations.
I just hope that after its 100th year this year, that it will remain and thrive and continue to be the important organization that it has been and hopefully will continue to be.
Long live Queen's Bench.
Long live Queen's Bench.